Every human body constantly sends signals about its internal state, but most people move through their daily lives without paying attention to them. These biological signals are the foundation of metabolic health because they reveal how your body responds to food, sleep, movement, stress, and environmental factors. Understanding these signals allows you to make decisions that are aligned with your physiology rather than relying on generalized health advice that may not work for your specific biology. Metabolism is essentially the process through which your body converts nutrients into energy and building blocks for cells. But the efficiency of that process varies dramatically from person to person. Two individuals can eat the same meal and experience completely different biological responses. One person might maintain stable energy levels, while another might experience a rapid spike in blood glucose followed by fatigue and cravings. These differences occur because metabolism is influenced by genetics, hormone balance, gut microbiome composition, muscle mass, sleep patterns, and long-term lifestyle habits. One of the most powerful ways to understand your biological signals is by observing how your body reacts after meals. Energy levels, mental clarity, hunger patterns, and mood shifts are all indicators of how well your metabolism is handling the nutrients you consume. When glucose regulation is stable, energy tends to remain steady for several hours. When the body struggles to regulate blood sugar, people often experience a cycle of energy crashes, brain fog, and strong cravings for sugary or processed foods. Modern health science has begun using tools that allow individuals to see these responses more clearly. Continuous glucose monitors, for example, provide real-time feedback on how the body handles carbohydrates and other nutrients. What researchers have discovered is that metabolic responses to food can vary widely, even among people with similar diets. This insight highlights the importance of paying attention to personal biological feedback rather than assuming that a popular diet or nutritional trend will work equally well for everyone. Sleep patterns also provide critical biological signals about metabolic health. If someone consistently wakes up feeling exhausted, struggles to fall asleep, or experiences energy crashes throughout the day, these may indicate disruptions in circadian rhythms or hormonal regulation. The body relies on synchronized biological clocks to regulate metabolism, and when those rhythms are misaligned, processes like glucose control, appetite regulation, and energy production become less efficient. Another key signal comes from physical performance and recovery. When metabolism is functioning well, the body adapts to exercise more efficiently, energy during workouts remains stable, recovery happens faster, and muscle tissue responds positively to training. On the other hand, chronic fatigue, poor recovery, or declining performance may signal that the body is under excessive stress or lacking adequate metabolic support. Stress responses themselves are also powerful indicators of biological function. Elevated stress levels trigger hormones such as cortisol and adrenaline, which mobilize energy resources in the body. In short bursts, this response is beneficial, but chronic activation can disrupt metabolic balance. When stress hormones remain elevated for long periods, they can influence blood glucose. One of the most important factors influencing metabolic health is the stability of blood glucose levels throughout the day. Glucose is the primary fuel source for many of the body's cells, especially those in the brain. When glucose levels are properly regulated, the body maintains steady energy, clear thinking, and balanced hormone signaling. But when blood sugar rises too quickly and then drops rapidly, it can create a cycle of fatigue, cravings, mood fluctuations, and long-term metabolic stress. After eating carbohydrates, the digestive system breaks them down into glucose, which enters the bloodstream. In response, the pancreas releases insulin, a hormone that helps move glucose from the blood into cells where it can be used for energy or stored for later use. In a well-functioning metabolic system, this process happens smoothly. Blood sugar rises slightly after a meal and then gradually returns to normal levels without dramatic spikes or crashes. However, modern dietary patterns often challenge this system. Meals high in refined carbohydrates and sugars can cause glucose to rise very quickly. When this happens, the body may release a large amount of insulin to bring blood sugar back down. The rapid drop that follows can leave a person feeling tired, irritable, or hungry again shortly after eating. This pattern of spikes and crashes encourages overeating and places continuous stress on the body's metabolic machinery. Over time, repeated glucose spikes can reduce the body's sensitivity to insulin. When cells become less responsive to insulin, the pancreas must produce even more of it to keep blood sugar under control. This condition, known as insulin resistance, is one of the central drivers of metabolic disorders such as type 2 diabetes, obesity, and cardiovascular disease. Maintaining stable glucose levels helps reduce this strain and allows the body's metabolic systems to operate more efficiently. Food composition plays a major role in glucose stability. Meals that combine carbohydrates with protein, healthy fats, and fiber tend to produce a slower and more controlled release of glucose into the bloodstream. Fiber in particular slows digestion and helps prevent rapid blood sugar spikes. Protein also increases satiety and supports muscle maintenance, which further contributes to better metabolic function. The order in which foods are eaten can also influence glucose responses. Consuming fiber-rich vegetables or protein before carbohydrate-heavy foods can slow glucose absorption and reduce the magnitude of blood sugar spikes. This simple behavioral change can significantly improve glucose control without requiring drastic dietary restrictions. Physical movement after meals is another powerful tool for stabilizing blood sugar. When muscles contract during activities like walking, they increase their ability to absorb glucose directly from the bloodstream. This process does not rely as heavily on insulin, meaning that even a short walk after eating can help prevent large glucose elevations. Regular exercise also improves insulin sensitivity over time, making the body more efficient at managing glucose. Sleep quality and stress levels further influence glucose regulation. Poor sleep can reduce insulin sensitivity and increase cravings for high-calorie foods, while chronic stress elevates cortisol, a hormone that raises blood glucose levels to prepare the body for perceived threats. When these factors persist over long periods, they can create a metabolic environment that encourages unstable glucose control, regulation, appetite, and fat storage patterns. The human body operates according to a deeply ingrained internal timing system known as the circadian rhythm. This system is a roughly 24-hour biological cycle that regulates when you feel awake, when you feel sleepy, how hormones are released, and how efficiently your body processes nutrients. Metabolism is strongly influenced by this internal clock, which means that the timing of behaviors such as light exposure, eating, and sleeping can significantly affect metabolic health and long-term longevity. At the center of this system is a small region in the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, located in the hypothalamus. This structure functions as the master clock of the body. It receives direct signals from the eyes that detect light in the environment. When light enters the eyes, especially natural sunlight, it signals to the brain that it is daytime. This triggers a cascade of biological processes that increase alertness, regulate hormone release, and prepare the body for activity and energy use. Morning light exposure plays a powerful role in setting the rhythm for the entire day. When the eyes receive bright light within the first hour of waking, the brain synchronizes internal clocks throughout the body. These clocks exist not only in the brain, but also in organs such as the liver, pancreas, muscles, and digestive system. When they are aligned, metabolic processes such as glucose regulation, digestion, and energy production operate more efficiently. Hormones that influence metabolism follow predictable circadian patterns. Cortisol, for example, naturally rises in the morning to help increase alertness and mobilize energy. Insulin sensitivity is also generally higher earlier in the day, meaning the body can process carbohydrates more effectively. As the day progresses and evening approaches, metabolic processes begin to shift toward rest and recovery. Melatonin begins to rise, signaling the body that it is time to prepare for sleep. When eating patterns conflict with this rhythm, metabolic efficiency can decline. Consuming large meals late at night forces the digestive system to work during a time when the body is biologically preparing for rest. Insulin sensitivity is typically lower in the evening, which means glucose may remain elevated for longer periods. Over time, this mismatch between biological timing and eating behavior can contribute to metabolic disturbances. Sleep timing is another major factor influencing circadian alignment. The body relies on consistent sleep and wake schedules to maintain stable rhythms. Irregular sleep patterns, frequent late nights, or exposure to bright artificial light late in the evening can confuse the brain's internal clock. When circadian rhythms become disrupted, hormones that regulate hunger, glucose metabolism, and energy balance may become less coordinated. Artificial light, particularly the blue light emitted from screens and LED lighting, can interfere with the natural rise of melatonin if it occurs late at night. This can delay sleep onset and shift the circadian rhythm later than intended. Over time, Chronic circadian disruption has been linked with reduced insulin sensitivity, increased inflammation, and greater risk for metabolic diseases. Physical activity also interacts with circadian biology. Exercise performed during the daytime can reinforce the body's natural rhythms by signaling that the body is in an active phase of the day. Movement helps regulate body temperature cycles, hormone release, and metabolic activity, all of which contribute to stronger circadian alignment. Muscle tissue plays a central role in metabolic health because it is one of the body's primary engines for energy use and nutrient management. While many people associate muscle mainly with strength or physical appearance, from a biological perspective, muscle is a powerful metabolic organ. It helps regulate blood glucose, supports hormone balance, and contributes significantly to how efficiently the body produces and uses energy. When you consume food, especially carbohydrates, glucose enters the bloodstream. One of the largest destinations for that glucose is skeletal muscle. Muscle cells contain specialized proteins called glucose transporters that allow glucose to move from the bloodstream into the cell where it can be used for energy or stored as glycogen. Because skeletal muscle makes up a large portion of total body mass, it acts as a major reservoir for glucose disposal. The more metabolically active muscle tissue a person has, the greater their capacity to manage glucose effectively. This means that individuals with higher levels of muscle mass generally have better insulin sensitivity. Their bodies can move glucose into cells more efficiently, which helps maintain stable blood sugar levels and reduces stress on the pancreas. Over time, this improved glucose control lowers the risk of metabolic disorders such as insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. Resistance training is one of the most effective ways to build and maintain muscle mass. When muscles experience mechanical tension during strength exercises, microscopic damage occurs within the muscle fibers. The body responds by repairing and reinforcing those fibers, making them stronger and slightly larger. This adaptation process increases the overall metabolic capacity of muscle tissue. Beyond simply increasing size, resistance training also improves the functional quality of muscle. It enhances mitochondrial activity inside muscle cells. Mitochondria are often described as the power plants of the cell because they generate the energy molecule ATP. When mitochondrial function improves, muscles become more efficient at using both glucose and fatty acids for fuel. This flexibility in fuel usage is often referred to as metabolic flexibility. Metabolic flexibility allows the body to shift smoothly between burning carbohydrates and burning fats depending on the situation. For example, during high-intensity exercise, the body may rely more heavily on glucose, while during rest or lower-intensity activities, it may rely more on stored fat. When metabolism is functioning properly, these transitions occur easily. When metabolic health declines, the body can become less efficient at switching between fuel sources. Muscle also influences metabolic health through its effects on resting metabolic rate. Even when the body is at rest, muscle tissue requires energy to maintain itself. This means individuals with greater muscle mass typically burn more calories throughout the day compared to those with less muscle. While this effect alone is not the primary factor in weight management, it contributes to overall energy balance and metabolic efficiency. Another important factor is the effect of muscle contraction on glucose uptake. During exercise, contracting muscles can absorb glucose directly from the bloodstream without relying as heavily on insulin. This process helps reduce blood sugar levels and improves insulin sensitivity over time. Even moderate physical activity such as bodyweight exercises, resistance bands, or weight training sessions can activate this metabolic pathway. Aging naturally leads to a gradual loss of muscle mass, a process known as sarcopenia. As muscle tissue declines, metabolic efficiency can also decrease. Maintaining regular resistance training and adequate protein intake helps slow this process and preserves the metabolic functions that muscle supports. Sleep is one of the most powerful regulators of metabolic health, yet it is often overlooked in discussions about nutrition and exercise. During sleep, the body performs essential processes that restore energy balance, regulate hormones, repair tissues, and maintain stable metabolic function. When sleep quality or duration is compromised, these systems become disrupted, and the effects can quickly appear in the form of fatigue, increased hunger, poor concentration, and unstable energy levels. One of the most important ways sleep affects metabolism is through its influence on hormone regulation. Several hormones that control hunger, satiety, and energy balance are tightly linked to sleep cycles. Ghrelin, often referred to as the hunger hormone, increases appetite and encourages food intake. Leptin, on the other hand, signals the brain that the body has enough energy stored and reduces hunger. When sleep is insufficient or irregular, ghrelin levels tend to rise while leptin levels decrease. This hormonal shift can lead to stronger cravings, particularly for calorie-dense and carbohydrate-rich foods. Sleep also directly influences how the body regulates glucose. Research has shown that even a single night of poor sleep can reduce insulin sensitivity. When insulin sensitivity decreases, cells become less efficient at absorbing glucose from the bloodstream. As a result, blood sugar levels remain elevated for longer periods after meals. Over time, repeated disruptions to sleep can place additional strain on the pancreas as it attempts to produce more insulin to maintain balance. The brain itself is highly dependent on sleep for metabolic stability. During deep stages of sleep, the brain clears metabolic waste products that accumulate during waking hours. This process helps maintain healthy neural function and supports cognitive performance. When sleep is consistently disrupted, the brain may experience reduced efficiency in areas responsible for decision-making and impulse control. This can make it more difficult to resist unhealthy food choices or maintain consistent lifestyle habits that support metabolic health. Circadian rhythms also interact closely with sleep quality. The body expects sleep to occur during a specific window of the night, guided by the rise of the hormone melatonin. When individuals stay awake late under bright artificial lighting or maintain irregular sleep schedules, the natural timing of melatonin release can shift. This misalignment can disrupt metabolic signals that control hunger, digestion, and energy use. Another important aspect of sleep is its role in physical recovery and muscle repair. During deep sleep, the body releases growth hormone, which supports tissue repair, muscle maintenance, and metabolic balance. This hormone helps the body recover from physical stress, including exercise, and contributes to maintaining lean muscle mass. Because muscle tissue plays a critical role in glucose regulation and energy metabolism, sleep indirectly supports these processes through its effect on recovery. Stress hormones are also strongly influenced by sleep patterns. Cortisol normally follows a daily rhythm in which it rises in the morning to promote alertness and gradually declines throughout the day. Poor sleep can disrupt this rhythm, leading to elevated cortisol levels during times when the body should be resting. Persistently elevated cortisol can increase blood glucose levels and encourage fat storage, particularly around the abdominal region. Stress is a natural biological response designed to help the body deal with challenges and potential threats. When the brain perceives stress, it activates a coordinated system involving the nervous system and several hormones that prepare the body for action. In short-term situations, this response can be highly beneficial, increasing alertness, focus, and energy availability. However, when stress becomes chronic or persistent, it begins to interfere with many of the systems that regulate metabolic health. The body's stress response is largely controlled by the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, often referred to as the HPA axis. When a stressful event occurs, the brain signals the adrenal glands to release hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol. Adrenaline increases heart rate and directs blood flow toward muscles, preparing the body for immediate action. Cortisol works by mobilizing stored energy, raising blood glucose levels so that the brain and muscles have quick access to fuel. In the short term, this response is extremely effective. It ensures that the body has enough energy to respond to demanding situations. The challenge arises when this stress response remains activated for long periods of time. Modern life often exposes people to ongoing psychological stress from work pressure, financial concerns, constant digital stimulation, and lack of recovery time. When the brain interprets these factors as continuous stress signals, cortisol levels may remain elevated throughout the day. Persistently high cortisol can disrupt metabolic balance in several ways. One of its primary effects is increasing blood glucose levels. Cortisol signals the liver to release glucose into the bloodstream, ensuring that the body has available energy during stressful situations. When this process occurs frequently, glucose levels remain elevated more often than they should. Over time, this can reduce insulin sensitivity, forcing the body to produce more insulin to manage blood sugar levels. Chronic stress also affects appetite regulation. Cortisol can increase cravings for highly palatable foods that are rich in sugar, fat, and refined carbohydrates. These foods provide quick energy and stimulate reward pathways in the brain, temporarily reducing feelings of stress. However, repeated reliance on these foods can contribute to unstable glucose levels and increased fat storage. Another metabolic effect of long-term stress involves where the body stores fat. Elevated cortisol has been associated with increased storage of visceral fat, which accumulates around internal organs in the abdominal area. This type of fat is metabolically active and can release inflammatory signals that interfere with insulin signaling and overall metabolic efficiency. Stress can also disrupt sleep patterns, which further compounds metabolic challenges. Individuals experiencing chronic stress often find it difficult to fall asleep or stay asleep because the nervous system remains in a heightened state of alertness. Since sleep plays a crucial role in regulating hormones, glucose metabolism, and recovery processes, disrupted sleep amplifies the metabolic effects of stress. The nervous system has two major branches that regulate the body's response to stress and recovery. The sympathetic nervous system is responsible for activating the stress response, while the parasympathetic nervous system promotes relaxation and recovery. When stress dominates daily life, the sympathetic system may remain active for extended periods, reducing the body's ability to enter a restorative state. Certain behaviors can help shift the body back toward parasympathetic dominance and restore metabolic balance. Slow breathing techniques, meditation, physical activity, and spending time in natural environments can reduce the intensity of the stress response. These practices signal to the brain that the environment is safe, allowing cortisol levels to gradually decline. Regular exercise also helps regulate stress hormones by providing a controlled outlet for physical and mental tension. Movement improves circulation, supports brain chemistry associated with mood regulation, and helps stabilize metabolic processes affected by stress. Transforming metabolic health and improving longevity ultimately comes down to understanding how your body functions as an integrated system. Metabolism is not controlled by a single habit or one specific diet, but by the combined influence of biological signals, glucose regulation, circadian rhythms, muscle activity, sleep quality, and stress management. When these systems are aligned, the body is able to produce energy efficiently, regulate hormones properly, and maintain stable internal conditions that support long-term health. By learning to observe your body's responses and adjusting daily behaviors accordingly, you begin to create a lifestyle that works with your biology rather than against it. Small, consistent actions, such as maintaining stable blood sugar, aligning with natural light cycles, building muscle through regular movement, prioritizing restorative sleep, and managing stress effectively, gradually strengthen metabolic resilience. Over time, these habits support clearer thinking, sustained physical energy, improved recovery, and a biological environment that promotes healthy aging and longevity.